All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get going here. I'd like to call this meeting of the West Dallas, West Milwaukee School Board to order. We're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Board Member Lee, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and then Sarah, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Board Member Carr,
Here.
Mr. Lee,
Here.
Ms. Kaiser.
Here.
Sorry, Jane. Ms. Steele,
Here.
Mr. Becker,
Here.
Ms. Lee,
Here.
Mr. Verbos,
Here.
Mr. Keller,
Here.
President Burns.
Present. So proper notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. Are there any modifications to our agenda tonight?
There are no modifications.
All right, well, then that will lead us right into the superintendent's report. So Dr. Robinson, take it away.
Good evening. The first thing we have on our agenda on this evening are the impacts of the government shutdown on Wisconsin schools. As of October 1st, the federal government officially entered a shutdown. The Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction will maintain operations. DPI will continue to pay claim reimbursements from local education agencies for most federal grants. DPI will reach out to LEAs that will be affected by impact aid. Lastly, DPI will be able to pay September claims on school meals. Our district recognitions. Last week, we recognized and thanked our school board members for their dedicated leadership and commitment to our students, staff, and community. Their vision and service help ensure that every decision supports learning, growth, and opportunity for all. I want to personally thank my 9 bosses. I say that jokingly, but I really have 9 people who I have to answer to, and I truly, truly appreciate and enjoy working with and for. And so, again, thank you for the work that you're doing in our district and for leading. This is Principal Appreciation Month, and we want to personally recognize those who give their time, and we're grateful for their incredible leadership and dedication for our principals in our schools. Your hard work, vision, and care make a lasting difference in our schools every day. So thank you to all of our principals for all the work that you do. We have several celebrations in addition to Principal Appreciation, National Principals Month, sorry. We have our October celebrations, and so we do have them on the screen. We have Hispanic Heritage Month. We have Yom Kippur. Thank you for our custodians. We have National Fire Prevention Week, our National Instructional Coach Appreciation, Happy World Teachers Day, as well as Amplify Indigenous Voices. And today happens to be Indigenous Peoples Day. And so I did a little homework, went back in time, and on October 8th, 2019, Governor Evers officially declared the second Monday in October to be Indigenous Peoples Day in Wisconsin. And it's to recognize the immense importance of Native nations to the state and reaffirm the significance of Native nations' sovereignty, culture, and history. Board Member Kaiser, you want to add anything to that? I'll give you this opportunity.
Yeah, those were right before I got to Indian Community School. The shirt I'm wearing today is actually our shirt for Indigenous Peoples Day this year. This 4 is a real tree on our grounds. It's considered like a marker tree, and it was very important to Native nations. For today, my students, online, unfortunately, we saw the line negativity about like, oh, well, it's another holiday before that. But I want to celebrate always Indigenous and amplifying Indigenous voices, that they were the first doctors, the first engineers, the first inventors, the first leaders, all those people who came here, who were removed from their lands, still want to be here, still are fighting for their culture and their language, and they're still here. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to work every day with my Native students and be able to say, you know, you're still here. Someone in your family fought very hard for you to be here. And it's also wonderful being in a state that currently recognizes the 12 tribal nations and Brotherton. So thank you.
Thank you. I knew you could add more context than I'm qualified to add, so I appreciate that. A transition readiness grant. Last spring, our Community Transition Services CTS program submitted a transition readiness grant application to the Department of Public Instruction, specifically requesting funds to purchase a vehicle. The TRG is designed to support Wisconsin students with disabilities as they transition successfully to competitive work and post-secondary education environments after high school. So we want to send a special shout out and recognition to our CTS program on the successful application of their grant. West Milwaukee Intermediate Administration would like to recognize the following staff members: Ms. Bush, Mr. Grabner, Ms. Congliero, I know I was going to mess it up, and Ms. Slade. Each of these staff members assisted the leading differentiating staff PD on the afternoon of September 19th. Their leadership at West is greatly appreciated. Our Recreation and Community Service, Major League Soccer, the National Recreation and Parks Association, and the RCX Sports Foundation announced the West Milwaukee Recreation and Community Service Department is the recipient of a $10,000 grant through the MLS Go Play Fund, the NRPA grant. When athletes register to play with us, they will receive a reversible MLS brand jersey, shorts, and socks in their player pack. Congratulations and thanks to Bobby Foreman for his efforts and work in securing this grant to improve the game of soccer for youth in our district. And I know there's a picture up there that says LA. We will only mention LA when it comes to soccer and not baseball. All right, we agree for that, right? Okay. All right, just want to make sure that did come up. Knights of Columbus coat delivery. I'm going to ask Mr. Jerry to come up. Today, the West Allis Knights of Columbus generously delivered jackets to Pershing Elementary School, ensuring that every student will have one to keep them warm this season. The jackets will be distributed this Friday to all of our students, and we're asking all of our board members, if you have a couple of minutes and you're available on Friday, please come out. This is the second year I can remember. I know last year we were at Horseman and Knights of Columbus did the same thing. I want to go ahead and allow Mr. Jerry the opportunity. My good friend, Mr. Jerry from Rotary. Come on up. What do you have to say, Mr. Jerry?
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Robinson, and thank you all for inviting us here. First off, the other gentleman with me is John Richter. He is the treasurer of our council. I want to make a comment about the Indigenous Peoples Day. It's also it used to be called Columbus Day, and we always wonder why the Knights of Columbus was started in about 1880 by an Irish priest, Father Michael McGivney. He was a associate pastor over in New Haven, Connecticut. And at that time, the Irish were the European immigrants coming in from the United States. And as the case would be, a lot of these initial immigrants would get the worst jobs. And in the case of the Irish, they were discriminated against too. I mean, there would be signs, help wanted, but Irish don't apply. So anyhow, a lot of the guys had terrible jobs and were killed in their jobs. And being good Irish Catholics, they had big families, and the poor widow was left without any help and whatever. So that's how Father McGivney started the Knights of Columbus. But for the life of all of us, we don't know why he named it after an Italian. I mean, it should have been the Knights of St. Patrick, right? So I just wanted to get that in, you know. Okay. Well, first off, yes, we are doing the jackets on Friday over at Pershing. There are about 350 of them. I want to thank the administration. They sent a big truck over today. Sarah set it all up, and thank you so much. And also Carolyn, I'm sorry, set it up and it worked out perfect. Last year, we did also donated a check of $7,500 for maintenance fee. But in the meantime, I want to compliment first off Dr. Robinson and all of you school board members. You put a referendum out and it passed overwhelming. You know what that tells me? That the people of West Allis appreciate a good school. I mean, if you want to sell a home and you got lousy schools, people are going to go away, especially younger families with children. So you've done a great service by getting that referendum passed and keep the fine school district that you have going. So I really want to thank you for that. Even though I live in New Berlin now, I know there is a West Allis school in New Berlin. The other thing, though, in the meantime, what we did recently in the city of West Allis, the terrible flood that hit. There was a program put out recently, so we donated $5,000 toward that. Also, I don't know how many of you are familiar, but down on National Avenue, there's what's called the Homeless Vets Initiative. They were flooded out and lost a lot of things. So we donated $5,000 to that group. And then finally, we take care of the West Allis Christmas Parade. We donated $4,000 to them again to keep that going. And finally, the various food pantries throughout the city, we donated $10,000 to that. So that's sort of what is being that we were. So that's a little bit about what we're doing. And I'm going to just sum it up by saying you guys are doing a great job. I mean, I grew up in West Allis, went to Woodrow Wilson for kindergarten about 1947. I think I passed. I don't know, I have my diploma, but whatever. But we do have one other thing we want to present, and I'm going to have my friend John bring it up. And, Dr. Robinson and I do.
I came
go back
prepared
and
tonight. I'm
forth
ready. What
about
do you
our-
have? What do you
about
have?
Our baseball teams. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's got a fine team that he supports. That's the thing but that you can only wear on certain occasions. So this year I brought you a Brewer mug.
All right, all right.
You can use every day. Whatever, whether you like hot chocolate or coffee. Whatever, but thank you. Okay. Thank you for learning to have.
Mr. J, can we get a picture real quick?
Okay.
Come stand over here a little bit.
No, I don't want to come up. Thanks.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna skip out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. We'll, he'll give me a school for next year. We want to keep this program going for the kids.
No doubt.
Okay,
No
all
doubt.
right. Nice meeting you all. Thanks again. See
Thanks,
you
Sam.
on Thursday.
I'll see you Thursday at Rotary.
Okay, you bet.
Mr. Jerry is, even the conversation in my house, my wife says, well, you're going for the Brewers. I say, yeah, I just want them to win for Mr. Jerry. So it's all good. Our community events, visits and meetings hosted Representative Vining at the Recreation Center on the 23rd with boys volleyball match at Whitnall on the 24th of September. Recreation Department Leadership Retreat. I participated in for a little bit with that. I want to send a special shout out to Shelley and the rec department for an outstanding retreat with her team. WAWM PTA Council meeting, our CISA 1 Superintendent's meeting, Walker Elementary School Halloween Harvest Dance, as well as the Athletic Directors meeting, our WAWM Retiree Breakfast, outstanding event, over 150 retirees. I know Board Member Carr and our president were in attendance. Just outstanding. And it was just so good to see all of our retirees being able to get together and reminisce. I heard so many stories of their time in the district. Our Superintendent's Advisory Council meeting with our students, The Voice, On 10/10, we held the Central High School homecoming festivities, parade, and football game. 10/13, which was today, I actually had a Zoom meeting with Thomas McCarthy, who is the Deputy State Superintendent for DPI. It was a request of myself and Aaron Norris, our Assistant Superintendent, joined me for that meeting, really talking about detachment and trying to get a follow-up meeting with State Superintendent Underly very soon to discuss some procedural concerns we have regarding the process and making sure that we have things that are down and have a clear understanding. Instructional rounds at Franklin and Hoover, as well as the West Allis Rotary Club. Our student voice, we met on Friday, as I said earlier, and we have tonight the person who I would consider the captain. She's our captain this year, all right? Elena May. Elena is a senior at Nathan Hale. She's involved in cross country, track and field, Renaissance leadership team. She's in the orchestra. She plays the violin. She's a member of HOSA, National Honor Society, and Spanish National Honor Society. Elena, what's going on in Nathan Hale?
Hi. So Nathan Hale, excuse me, sorry, I was around a cat last night. I'm allergic to cats and stuff. Nathan Hale, I think we got a pretty good kick to the year with an early homecoming. So I think our first 4 or 5 football games were home games. So there was a lot of school spirit coming right into the year. I was on senior council who kind of helped plan up the homecoming theme and put it all together. We had a pep rally that some of our council members helped lead for school spirit. And we made floats. We had our little homecoming parade. Homecoming was, I think, a success. There were a lot of tickets sold. Then getting it more into the school side of things, we've had our beginning of the year ACT testing, like ACT practice testing. So students got a baseline for where they're going to be around the ACT. And I know some people like that because especially the juniors are really getting nervous for the ACT. So, and then we also did fast bridge testing, which is another standardized test. We have just started our Renaissance team up again from last year. Renaissance is a group that is focused on the culture and the climate of our school. So right now we have up in the Commons Hispanic Heritage Month display with like some facts and some decorations. We are working on starting up some new school spirit things. We might have a high five Friday, which we did last year. It's where people stand at the doors in the morning on a Friday and they give high fives to everybody. And that's like something to pump you up on a Friday morning. We're also going to do something called the Pulse Survey, which is a Renaissance Jostens survey that could help you get a certain level in like the national Renaissance ranking. So we're trying to we're trying to not apply qualify for that this year. Last year we actually would have qualified if we would have had a social media platform following Renaissance, but our teachers didn't know. So this year we're really trying to qualify for that and get an award for our school spirit. Other things going on for HOSA this week, we have a blood drive where students and community members can donate blood to help save lives. And then at Rotary, we already started our luncheons and food drives. Our luncheons, we go and we visit West Allis Rotary and we update them about what our Rotary Club in specific is doing. Food drives, we go to a church and we help put together bags and give food to people who need food. So students, I think it's 2 students every week do each one. And then Hoover Harvest Fest is this weekend, and I know we have some of our Rotary people volunteering for that. I'll be there painting faces, face painting.
Cool.
And then I think we also have like a Rotary bake sale. I know we have actually a couple bake sales going on. Sophomore Council has a bake sale going on to start fundraising for things. So I think we're off to a pretty good start.
I know this is a senior year for you. So what are your plans? What are you doing right now, and what are your plans for next year? Like, what are you doing to get prepared for that?
Sure. So right now I am working on my college applications. I have already finished my direct admit application. Because once you get direct admitted, you have to go in, fill out some information so you can get the letters back. So I'm already getting those letters. I have a draft of my essay written. It's almost done. And I've kind of filled in some stuff for Madison. I filled in some stuff for one of the Minnesota schools. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going next year, but I am applying. So, and then I'm kind of undecided major wise, but I'm very into like science, the brain, environment. So
Cool.
we'll see how it
All right.
goes.
That was a lot. Thank you, though. Thank you for sharing. All right. Okay. That concludes the superintendent's report for tonight.
All right, great. At this time, then, that will take us to our public comments section. So if anyone would like to address the board, you may sign up in the back of the room or in the Zoom link in the Zoom chat. Introduce yourself with your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to provide comments. The board cannot discuss, debate, or act upon any item addressed during the public comments portion of the school board meeting. However, follow-up may be provided by the superintendent at the next regularly scheduled board meeting. At this time, I do not see anyone signed up. I'll give a moment for them to rush and sign up. All right. Seeing nobody, I will close the public comments at this time, and we will move on to board reports, starting with the review of our board calendar, which tonight is October 13th, 2025, and we have a regularly scheduled board meeting with the teaching and learning workshop with the fall screener, as well as Fast Bridge beginning of the year screener data. On October 19th, we're going to be having a board retreat at the Activity and Fitness Center in the board room. October 20th, where there was a board workshop scheduled at 6 p.m., it has been canceled, so there will be no board workshop on October 20th. And then on October 27th, we have again another regularly scheduled board meeting to improve our 2025-2026 final budget and tax levy, as well as the financial stability and efficiency workshop working on the compensation model draft number 1. So that is our calendar upcoming. And so at this time, we will move on to 8.2 for our board committee reports. And to start us off, 8.2.1, we have college and career readiness, school board member Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. The committee met tonight, right before this meeting. We focused on the library plan proposal. We were just coming out of a 3-year cycle. Now we're going into a 5-year cycle. We got to hear a little bit about some of the focus for the future, basically future-ready tools. The committee had met. They have a short list of items to improve on. One of the questions I asked right away was about budget. Is the budget concern an issue for the library? And it fortunately is not. So that was really nice to hear. They were talking about some of the nice changes they made in the 22 to 25 cycle. The higher level look there was looking at updating materials. I think the most, sorry, bear with me guys, I'm reading with my notes here. The biggest takeaway from the 22 to 25 was joining the Wisconsin School Digital Library Consortium. That was focused on closing gaps in resources, making sure we have a little more variety, making sure there's a lot to choose from. For the 25 through 2030 goals, I won't go too deep into detail there because we will be hearing from them by the end of the year, I believe. The three main goals to take away were personalized professional learning, collaborative learning through play, and equitable access. After we got done with the library presentation, we spoke a little bit about further refining the KPIs for our board committee, really making sure that they're tied back to specific achievement goals for the district. And that was the end of the discussion.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the group? All right. Seeing none, we will move on to 8.2.2, which is our employee engagement and culture. School board member Carter.
Thank you, President Burns. The Employee Engagement and Culture Committee met at 5 o'clock on Thursday, October 9th. I have 9 items that we have to go over, but I just want to say it's because we did not meet last month. So it's kind of a 2 months worth of work. Dee Garcia gave the board members an update on the Kelly Staffing timeline. Kelly Staffing is a company our district works with to fill the growing needs for substitute teachers. At this time, we are piloting this in elementary school and West Milwaukee Intermediate School. There are many benefits for anyone seeking to work for the staffing agency. They're able to work full-time, they earn benefits. Retired teachers may work additional hours beyond the WEA agreement, and they have access to professional development. We're extremely excited to be partnering with Kelly Staffing, and we hope to include all of our schools in the near future. Our next area of business, Dee provided an update on educator effectiveness. Educator effectiveness is an opportunity for principals to observe and give feedback to staff. However, it's important that all principals are in agreement as to what they are observing and what feedback will lead staff to high-quality universal instruction. So the admin will be providing opportunities for principals to calibrate and practice. Next, Dee Garcia informed the committee that they're working on some much-needed job descriptions updates. And this will be an ongoing process until everyone involved has a job description that truly reflects the work expected. Ms. Garcia then shared the exciting announcement of the Human Resources newsletter that will hit our inboxes and website the first week of every month. The link, it's called Better You, with just the letter U, and at WAWM-HR. But we did ask Dee to share the link with all board members and for the communications department to herald this so that they're on all their various social media spots too. It had some really interesting things. The thing that I liked about it a lot was that it was short, to the point, down and dirty. Look at this. Here's something that you might be interested in. And so it wasn't a huge time commitment for anybody to read, but it had really great information. We were also given an update on the new and improved employee engagement survey. Staff will be given a 2-week window starting October 15th with time offered to staff during the school day to fill it out if they so choose. We will also disaggregate data in additional ways than we had before to help us find any nuances that we might have missed. Our committee has asked employee engagement staff to conduct stay interviews as well as exit interviews. And this work has started. So Ms. Garcia meets with employees that have longevity in our district and asks them, why do you stay in West Allis West Milwaukee School District? What is it? And other questions, just so that we can hopefully improve employee engagement. So it's just one more thing that we're trying to do to increase longevity in our district. And lastly, we were informed that the cabinet directors have done an audit of our health and wellness program, and we will be informed of some action steps that will follow. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the Employee Engagement Committee? All All right. Seeing none at this time, thank you for the report. We will move on to 8.3, our board member reports of community events. Does anyone have anything that they would like to share for participation and whatnot? Yeah, Board Member Carr.
As Dr. Robinson said, I did go to the retiree breakfast. I went as a retiree, but also as a school board member. And it was delightful because, of course, I would say of those 150, I knew at least 100 people because I had been through the trenches with them and had great conversation. And I think the message that I believe that the retirees walked away with, that Dr. Robinson was very clear with, is that this is not just let's get together and chit chat and like old times. It's a, hey, you know what? It takes a village and you're all part of this. And we would love for you to come back and give back through your time and expertise. And I think that a lot of them, I watched the audience as they shook their heads and said, yeah, we understand that. And things like coming on the first day of school and just greeting kids as they walk through the doors. So I did enjoy it tremendously, and I hope that that will continue.
All right, thank you. Any other events anyone would like to share? Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I guess I can do something. Well, one, well, I went to the West Dallas Central homecoming game, and it was fantastic. Mostly I was there because my child was in the band. But however, I will say, like, the additional things that they were doing, the fun stuff, the race between the mascots was fantastic. The dance team's always spectacular. It was a really, really fun time. In the 2 years now that I've been going to these games, a lot more people. I think there's a lot more involvement. It seemed a lot more exciting. It seemed like there's just a lot more investment in it, which I thought was really, really great. I also did the tour of the West Dallas Central Fieldhouse project with President Burns, which it's fantastic. I mean, it's on track. Everything's looking really, really great. There are a lot of details in there that I didn't know were going to be involved in the entire project, but it's definitely something to look forward to. If anyone else has the opportunity to do that, I would recommend that you go. I'm really, really excited for the soft open. I think it's going to look really fantastic. That's about it.
All right, thank you. Anyone else before we move on? Sure, Board Member Becker.
I happened to catch an email on my way out to the office on Friday a couple weeks ago. It was about the Wisconsin Automobile and Truck Dealers Association. They had a transportation showcase over at Hale. So looking back at the email, it did say 20 representatives, but it sure felt like more than that. There was about 100, 200 kids, it seemed like, out at the time. I think there were a dozen schools represented. Ran to Mr. Lesser, and he was telling me about how he was having conversations with students about all the different components and the different disciplines involved in building some of the custom trucks. There were auto body shops, just a whole range of different possible professional opportunities. So it felt like it was a walk in the walk kind of a moment, because we talk about not being only centered on college as a future. So that was really nice to see. Just took a quick lap and got to have a couple conversations. Some of the dealers that came from Madison, and I simply asked them, was it worth the trip? And said, yep, absolutely. So that was a really nice event.
Great, thank you. All right, anyone else? I'd share, but I got sniped by Dr. Robinson and Mr. Verbose over there. So beyond that, anyone else have anything else to share? No? All right. Well, then we will move on to our other updates and information items. So the only other update that I wanted to be sure I spoke about was mentioned already, but if you have the opportunity on Friday to go and hand out coats with the group, that would be wonderful. There should be an invite in your calendar, but I believe it starts at 9:30 and runs until about 2:30.
9:30.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So beyond that, that is all I have for that. And so then we will move on to our consent agenda. If I could get it back pulled up. And our consent agenda includes 9.1, our approval of minutes, 9.2, our employment summary, 9.3, our supplementary contracts, and 9.4, the rename Communications and Community Relations Committee to the Communications and Engagement Committee. Does anyone need anything separated out?
I do. Please separate out 9.2 employee summary. I do know one of the employees that we will be voting on.
Okay, so we'll need to separate that out. So then at this time, we would need to go 2 votes on this. So I would look for at this time a motion.
Move to approve.
Move to approve 9.1, 9.3, and 9.4.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any more input on that motion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that will pass. And then we will need, I will entertain another motion for our separated item 9.2.
Move to approve 9.2.
Second.
All right, any further input on the action or on the motion? All those in favor? Those opposed? All right, that passes as well. Thank you very much. And that will take us into our action items for this evening, starting with 10.1, our post-65 retiree health insurance renewal, which will be led by Mr. Norris, I believe.
Yep.
All right, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having us back. This evening, we want to talk about our post-65 health insurance renewal. And so before I jump in to do an introduction, I'll just introduce who's here this evening. So to my right is Dawn Marking from Innovative Benefit Solutions. She'll be leading the presentation that you'll see tonight. To my left is Jill Rakowski, our retiree benefit specialist. And to her left is Lorenzo Di Matteo, familiar face from Brown & Brown, our health insurance consultant. And behind them is Jessica Johnson. She handles benefits for all of active employees. So this evening, we wanted to provide you kind of an overview of our post-65 health insurance renewal. And typically these come packaged together, but you know, RFPs and timing, things don't always line up that way. So these were separated only because one happened just, I guess, in order of the other one. So this evening, what you'll hear from Dawn is kind of the process. And so what that looks like is getting bids, trying to compare plans, consistent procedures that we use for all RFPs, and specifically consistent considerations that we would have for any employee or post-65 retiree. So cost, disruption, end user experience, things like that. So as Dawn presents tonight, you'll hear about kind of what were the options, what were the costs of the employee, what are the potential changes, buy-up base, and kind of what are the next steps. So with that, I think Dawn has about 15 slides, and then we take any questions you have.
Thank you. Thank you. The renewal for the 2026 plan year for the, Kathy's going to pass out some hard copies. The renewal we have this year for the 2026 post-65 medical and prescription drug program renewal for the retirees. Let me move to the next slide. The retiree program is comprised of 2 components. We have the Anthem Medicare Advantage medical component and the Humana prescription drug plan. Combined, the renewal for the 2026 plan year that was delivered was a $90.77 or 63.2% increase. The current combined premium is $143.73, and that would be increasing to $234.50 per member per month. Reasonings behind the substantial increase. There are multiple factors that are used to determine the rate increases by those carriers. Limited to, but not all inclusive, we have claim trend. We have benefit changes, which we do have some benefit changes. We have CMS changes and reimbursement changes. There are no major benefit changes that are being recommended or implemented by CMS. And CMS is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. For those of you who may not be familiar with that, that is the arm of the federal government that oversees Social Security and Medicare prescription drug programs. Changes under the Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act was signed in 2024 and was implemented in January of 2025. And some of those changes were rather significant changes that are having a direct impact on cost. It was a huge benefit to the member, the retiree, from the aspect that prior to this year, if a retiree had an out-of-pocket maximum under pharmacy that they faced of $8,000 of their personal spend. So as a retiree, I could potentially spend up to $8,000 before I would get to that catastrophic level where I was then paying just a small portion. That changed in January of this year, and that's one of the biggest impacts on this increase this year. Retirees now have a $2,000 incurred cost out of pocket, not their personal spend, but incurred. If you're familiar with specialty drugs, there are drugs out there that you could easily incur $2,000 in January, have your personal copay be, let's say, $50, and that retiree is now done for the year. The remaining cost for that particular retiree is picked up by the plan. So that's one of the impacts that we're seeing on the retiree benefits for the new year. And behind that, we also have the trend that they're projecting for the upcoming plan year for group retiree benefits is at 8.5%. I've been doing this for quite some time, and I can honestly say it's been a long time since I've seen 8.5% trend. Some of the key drivers behind that trend increase, I think we hear about it every day. We hear it on the news. We read it about in the newspaper. Hospital and provider costs. They're driven by wage inflation, staffing shortages, rising supply costs, and obviously hospitals seeking to increase revenue. Prescription drug spending. This is a big, big area. We have the continuous ongoing development of specialty drugs. Each year, there are more and more specialty drugs that are becoming available to the general population, and especially in the retiree population. So we not only see additional specialty drugs becoming available, we are seeing a substantial increase in utilization of those specialty drugs by retirees. As an example, in 2023, this particular population had 193 specialty prescriptions. In 2024, that number is up to 234 scripts. We don't have any information on 2025, and we won't until next year, but we saw a substantial increase just between 23 and 24. The other area we're seeing big increases in is in behavioral health utilization. It has become the focus of CMS several years ago to begin focusing on the retiree population and behavioral health. They really do. When I go to see a personal physician, I'm even asked to fill out questionnaires asking me about my mental health. How do I feel? Do I feel threatened? Do I have a home? Can I make my payment? Do I have groceries? Can I afford those groceries? So they're really focusing and have been focusing on behavioral health in the elderly population. And because of that, we're seeing a big surge in behavioral health services in this particular population. We're also seeing for the upcoming plan year 2026, there are 2 regulatory changes that CMS has put forth that plans must abide by. Both of those regulations, CMS, not the carriers, but Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services are projecting because of those 2 changes, they're going to see an impact on additional inpatient hospital services. So they believe when 26 plan year comes through, we'll see an increase in cost in inpatient hospital stays due to those 2 regulatory changes that are coming through by CMS. And we have to abide by them. The medical plans have to, the Medicare Advantage plans do. So what we did is we looked at the renewal and then looked at all of the opportunities and opportunities to make change both to the plan structure we have today as well as the benefits that we have today. And it would be my recommendation that we have the 2 components today, the Anthem for the medical component and the Humana for the pharmacy component. I am recommending that we combine them all under one umbrella with Humana providing both the medical and the pharmacy. They provided us a quote, as did Anthem, but they had the most competitive quote as far as cost and benefits were concerned. So it's my recommendation to move everything under one umbrella, medical and pharmacy with Humana. I would also suggest that we continue with the base plan offering as well as a buy-up opportunity for those retirees to make that decision based upon their personal needs and their budget needs. We can't possibly know what fits every retiree, so I would recommend we stay with a base and a buy-up option for the retirees. Okay, these are the numbers. There's going to be a lot of numbers, so if you need me to slow down or explain anything, feel free to interrupt. This is the base plan. This is the plan that is supported and recommended from the school district. So the school district contributions are based upon the base plan. So currently, the base medical is $4.99. The base pharmacy is $138.74 for a combined total of $143.73 per member per month. The district pays 50% of that, or $71.86. That's a monthly cost of just under $60,000 with an annual cost of $718,313. The renewal we received, the medical component renewal was $499. The current was $49.99, moving to $51.99. Pharmacy was $138.74, moving to $182.51 for a combined premium of $234.50, or a $90.77 increase, 63%. District's 50% would have been $117.25. That would take the monthly cost of just under $60,000 and move it to just under $100,000 at $97,669, with an annual cost of $1,172,031. Humana put forth an offer matching the current base policy, the benefits that are available to the retirees today under the base plan. Their number came back at $215.74 versus the $234.50 that was offered with the renewal. That results in a $72.01 increase, or a 50% increase. That would have resulted in the district's cost share moving from $71.86 to $107.87. Monthly, just under $90,000, annualized just over $1 million. Then I asked Humana to put forth an option keeping the premium as close as it is to what we have in 25. What would those benefits look like? So they came through with a renewal premium of $145.22. That results in a $1.49 increase per member per month. The district cost share would move from $71.86 to $72.61. Monthly premium $60,484, annualized $725,810. The WE, just as a point of reference, the WEA premium we had back in 2022 when we moved from WEA to this program was at $330.76 per member per month. It's not an attractive renewal, but we are still well below where we were starting back in 2022. Are there any questions on the base? The buy-up plan. So,
Any questions before we go? Okay.
One thing just to clarify, so the current 7186, that's the 50-50 split. The renewal at the 117.25 is Anthem, that's 63%. The Humana match, when we say match, we mean plan for plan. Apple's same plan, what's the renewal, right? At Humana, it's 50%. And then Humana gave an alternative saying, hey, if we make changes to the base plan, lessening the benefit on the base plan, we can get it close to the 7186. That's the 7261. So the base plan, the recommendation is to do the alternative to cap the district's costs, essentially. Okay, so now we're going to shift to the buy-up because it's a different line of thinking in a second. Go ahead.
they did, but it was not as competitive as Humana. I have a lot of options I could have presented. We would have been here for more than 15 minutes. We go into the market, we review all of the options that are available, both carrier-wise as plan design options are available, and then I present and put forth what is the best option for the district.
And some of the reason that Anthem's not on here for the base is because when you get to the buy-up, part of this is you can't say like, let's go alternative base, or I'm sorry, go with the base plan with Anthem and then the buy-up with Humana. You have to pick one carrier. So when you get to the buy-up, that's where the big savings was to maintain the benefit, to provide our post-65 retirees with like for like, apple for apple. So when we get to that, it might provide more clarity too on that.
Any other questions before they continue?
Okay, the buy-up renewal. So currently the buy-up plan has a medical component of $14.99. The pharmacy is $155.40 for a total premium of $170.39. The district's cost share is the same all the way through. They remain at the $71.86. The retiree who enrolls in the buy-up plan pays $98.53. What that is their 50%, their $71.86, plus the cost difference between buy-up and base. So I take the cost difference, I add it to my $71.86, and the retirees are paying $98.53. We have roughly 830 retirees. 701 retirees have the buy-up plan today. So the majority, significant majority, is in that buy-up plan today. The renewal for the medical component was $61.99, pharmacy $199.84, for a total of $261.83, $91.44 increase, or 59%. The district cost share, 50% of the renewal, the Anthem renewal, was $117.25. If we did the renewal and made no changes, the retiree is paying cost difference between the buy-up and the base plus their $117.25. They would move to $144.58. Humana came back with a plan matching that buy-up plan. Their premium is $239.24. It's a $68.85 increase, or 40%. The districts, if they take the base plan with Humana, that contribution to the district is $72.61. We take that, add it to the cost difference between base and buy-up with Humana, the retiree would be paying $166.63. Humana put forth an option for the buy-up plan with a premium of $200.19, just under $30, or 17%. That would have resulted in a total premium to the retiree of $127.58. I then asked them the same thing I asked for the district. Give me a plan that keeps that buy-up premium the same, and let's see what that plan looks like. So the third alternative that came through, it's $169.26. It's a $1.13 reduction. The retiree's contribution would be $96.65 for option 2. Any questions on buy-up? Okay. All right, so what I did here was to give you an idea of what we know what the premiums are. These are what the plans are. So this is the base again. This is the program where the district pays their 50% cost share. On the left is the current combined program today with Anthem and Humana, and on the right would be the combined Humana program. Those items in red are the changes to the program that allows us to keep the premium basically where we are today. So we have a $500 deductible. That's not changing. For inpatient hospital stay, we would have, under the new program, a $250 per admission copay. Urgent care has a $35 copay. Skilled nursing, there would be no change. For physician office visit, it's a $10 copay. Specialists are $20, and outpatient care is a $100 copay. All those items noted with the asterisk, those are copays that would begin after that $500 deductible is met. So I would, like I do today as a retiree, I have a $500 deductible. I must meet that first $500 today. When I get to $500 today, I essentially am done with my office copays, et cetera. Under the new program, I have a $500 deductible, but now I'll pay some various copays. So the deductible and all those copays combined will cap out at $3,000 under the proposed program. Today, they have $1,000 out of pocket. Under the proposed program, they would have a $3,000 out-of-pocket calendar year. The one change that we do have is there is a benefit today. It's called over-the-counter benefits. It was introduced in January of this year. It just began in January. It provides a $75 per quarter, $75 per quarter, $300 per calendar year benefit to the retiree to present a card where they can go and get vitamins, cough syrup, just general pharmacy over-the-counter benefits. That is not included in this program. They gave us the option to add it, and I do have those costs, but it is not included in this program. And I can add, I'm not sure if it's in the presentation, we did find out, we got information from Anthem that during the first 8 months of this plan year, less than, or about 25% of all retirees actually even used that over-the-counter program. So it's about 25% of the folks used it. These are the two options that were shown to us for the buy-up. So on the left, we have the current program. It's a $500 deductible. Everything's covered in full after that. That program, that $500 deductible with zero after that and a $500 out-of-pocket maximum matches what the retirees had with the WEA trust. So that's the program that was there in 2022, and it is the buy-up today. So the two plans, the option 1 and option 2, are alternatives that allow us to add additional cost to the retiree and bring back down some of their cost share. My recommendation would be we leave the buy-up plan as it is today. And I say that because if we look at option 2, where the retiree is paying the same amount of money today and they would with this renewal, that to me, in my personal opinion, that plan looks an awful lot like the district's base plan. It's a $500 difference. The out-of-pocket under the district is $3,000. These folks would have $2,500. So as a retiree, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, well, that's not really a buy-up. Option 1, and again, my personal opinion, there's not enough savings there with the additional costs that I'm facing. And again, I'm looking at this from the retiree aspect. That doesn't say buy-up to me. To me, my buy-up is the plan that I had, the $500 deductible, and I'm done after that. I have 100%. And a lot of people like today are willing to pay that to have that. I pay $500 and I'm done. This is current plan compared to the Humana buy-up. And as you can see, it's the same thing they have today, with the exception that the OTC program is no longer available unless we add it in. But we're leaving everything else the same, medical and pharmacy-wise. This is what the offering would look like to the retirees if we took my recommendation of amending the base plan for the district, keeping their costs basically the same, making no changes to the buy-up plan, and giving the retiree the option to maintain the benefits they have today. They'll pay additionally for it, but they'll have the benefit they have today. So the base plan would cost the retiree $71.87. The buy-up plan, it would cost the $72.61 for the retiree. The buy-up plan will cost the retiree $166.63. So today retirees pay $71.87 if they're in the base plan. That would move to $72.61. The retirees in the buy-up plan today pay $98.53. That would move to $166.63. The key differences between the two programs, one, again, the elimination of the over-the-counter program, the drug card, the over-the-counter benefits. There's two benefits available with Humana. The benefit that matches what they have today, which is the card. They put $75 on a card and the member can go into a pharmacy and purchase those items and swipe the card. That would cost an additional $14.29. There is a more limited benefit available. And by limited, I mean it's not a card. They would have to shop online. And they would have to go through the Humana program to purchase those items online through their catalog. That is $7.23. per member per month if we add that. We were just notified that the Mayo Clinic in Rochester and their associated facilities will no longer participate in the Humana Medicare Advantage network beginning on January 1st. So that is a change, and that's a change we were just notified of. And then the only other change is there are ancillary benefits available under the Medicare Advantage program today with Anthem. It's dental, vision, and hearing benefits. There will be dental, hearing, and vision benefits available with Humana. Those networks will change because those ancillary benefits today utilize Anthem providers. The dental, vision, and hearing benefits would utilize Humana providers. Implementation, we're ready to make the change. Our suggestion is we enroll every retiree as they are enrolled today. That keeps it pretty basic for the retiree. The only thing the retiree would have to do is if they decide they want to change their plan. I'm buy up today and now I want base. That retiree will be required to complete a form which will be provided to them. They will return those forms to Jill. We'll have one central point and Jill will be that central point. And then we'll submit those into the carrier for the change for January 1st. So if they have what they have today is what they want and they like it, that retiree needs to do nothing. It's only if they want to make a change, they'll have to provide a form. If they choose no longer to participate and they would like to opt out, then they would have to also complete a form for opting out. Same as today, married retirees can choose their own plan. So husband and wife do not have to be enrolled in the same plan. And we do have retirees who are split. I've spoken to a lot of retirees, as my office has as well, during this last year when they were trying to make choices. And we have a lot of husbands and wives where someone's on the base and then the spouse sits on the buy-up plan. All members will get new ID cards and all members will get new welcome kits because of the combination into the Humana program. So moving forward, we'd like to be able to send out a notice. Jill would send out an email blast tomorrow to the retirees, letting them know what's forthcoming. We have mailings that we're working on and prepared and ready to send out this week. So the retirees would have them probably 7 to 10 business days following that mailing. That information will be sent to their homes. And then we have a meeting scheduled for Tuesday, November 4th at Nathan Hale High School. Representative from Humana will be there to do a presentation, as will everyone from my office and the folks from Brown & Brown to answer all questions.
So I think that's a kind of an overview of the process and kind of all the details that go into kind of a recommendation, pending questions and your thoughts around kind of where to proceed with post 65 benefits. So kind of, I guess to summarize, the recommendation is to seek approval from you guys on the alternative base plan to minimize retiree and district costs, and then to keep the benefit for the buy-up the same with the increased cost to the end user. Look for questions or thoughts from the board.
Questions? Board Member Lee?
One question. I don't know if I missed this in the beginning. With the standard health insurance we go through, we always talk about they initially gave us a renewal of this amount and then we negotiated and we got down to this. I presume the same thing happened with these as well. If you said it, I missed it. And if you did say it again. It's always good to hear it.
Yes. No, we do this every year. We do a thorough review of the marketplace, not only within the carriers and the options available with those carriers, but other carriers as well. Yes, that is something that we are required to do every year.
Just out of curiosity, they came back with a 63% increase that we ended up with. What was the initial increase they provided?
The initial increase is the 63.2.
So
Okay.
Is there not negotiation? He's saying they start at 63 and it's that's just what it
No,
is.
that with the 63.2 is the 60. They were not willing to negotiate. And I think that a significant portion of that is because of pharmacy and the uncertainty of where pharmacy is. We are in year one of a 3 to 4 year transition of cost shifting. In addition to the cap that was replaced with 8,000 per retiree to 2,000 of incurred. One of the other items that took place in beginning of 2025 is CMS actually cost shifted 20% of their cost share. They were responsible for 40% of cost share. They shifted 20% to the carriers. So in 2025, the carriers not only are looking at every dollar over a $2,000 incurred, they are also taking on 20% of CMS. What CMS used to pay is now part of those carriers.
Okay. So this is something that wouldn't be unique to our situation.
Oh,
This
no.
is something that's happening system-wide because these
Yes.
changes that are being made in the Medicare marketplaces.
Yes, it is not, it's not inclusive just to you. It's all of my groups. And I can say you're not even my highest renewal this year. You're not.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? No other questions. Okay. I don't think I have any questions either. I just want to clarify for, myself with all of these numbers in here that right now what we're looking to do is to do the combined Humana base plan. Is that, and then we're looking to utilize the current Humana MAPD.
Yes.
That's what we're looking to do. Okay. And the reason that we're sticking with that one versus the other two is just simply because with the increased costs for the deductibles and then the out-of-pocket maximum, there's not enough savings from those to actually like counteract the current plan as a buy-up.
I do not believe so.
Yeah. And I think last year when we spoke with the retirees, the post 65 group, the overwhelming resounding feedback was they want to keep the buy-up plan intact. People like the benefit. And even when the cost went up, not as substantially as last time, 700 people stayed on it. So I know the percentage is a lot and it's, $68 a month. My assumption is when we're back here next year, it'll still be 700 people on the plan. Like the 68, they're just going to want to keep the plan. And so changing it to minimize costs, few might dislike that and choose the base plan, which is their choice, but many I think will still pay for that and keep it, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending how you look at it, I suppose. So.
Okay. And then just because with this plan and everything, when we're talking about the premium of the $145 for a total premium, is that the total for the year or is that the total per month?
That's per month.
Per month.
Yeah, the
Okay,
145.
just making sure.
Yep.
Yeah, 145.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That's all I have. Is there any other questions from the board?
I just want to clarify, that's the total for the month, but we pay 50% of that.
Yes.
The total for the member is $72.61 per month.
Right. Right. Yep.
So
No, I was just looking at that overall cost.
Yeah.
It's monthly cost.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for the clarifier. All right. Well, then at this time, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve 10.1 post 65 retiree health insurance renewal.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any further input on the motion? See none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, and that carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, with the end of that, that brings us to 10.2, which would be our Knights of Columbus donation, and this would be led by Dr. Robinson.
Thank you. So we do have a donation of the jackets that I'm asking for the board to formally approve. When there's, according to policy 7230, when there's a contribution given to the district that totals over $5,000, the board has to approve it. And so with all of the calculations, this comes over that particular amount. And so we're asking for board approval of the jackets that are being donated to Pershing Elementary School.
Move to approve 10.2 Knights of Columbus donation.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further input on the motion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that carries. Congratulations on that. And that will take us to item number 11.1, our teaching and learning workshop, the fall screener data presentation by Ms. Barrage. Are you all set to get going? Okay.
Can we take
well
5 minutes? President Burns.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm joined by Corey Sack, who is our manager district-wide for all things data, our data expert. And so we are grateful to have the opportunity to be with you all again to talk through our beginning of year data review. We'll be reviewing our FastBridge data, which is our screener for our district. And so to ground us this evening, I want to start and point us back to our district theory of action. This was updated this past summer as a district leadership team. I want to point us here for two reasons. One, it helps us stay really focused on our core work. We know that if we're trying to do everything, we're not going to do anything really well. So the point within our theory of action is to stay focused on our core work as well as our core goals. So those are highlighted in the blue below. So if we implement really high quality universal instruction consistently, we are expecting, and these are our goals on the bottom, that we will see growth for our students per FastBridge. So that's the data point we're going to be looking at this evening. And then ultimately, we want to see increases in achievement for all of our students across literacy and math. But again, the data we're going to be looking at this evening is focused on our FastBridge screener data. I also want to point us to our new school board goals that you all approved recently and highlight that early literacy, mathematics, and our goal around for our students with disabilities is all connected to this goal around growth in literacy and math for our students. So again, just kind of our grounding for why this data is important. I would also add that the purpose of beginning of year data collection analysis are these four core areas. One, very important. It's an early check on where students are beginning the year. So it's an important data point for our leaders, for us as district staff, aligning supports, as well as for our teachers and families to know this is where your student is beginning this grade level. It helps us identify support that students need, additional support, as well as our schools need from our district team. It also points us towards trends. So we are trying to analyze and see how are we trending across literacy and math from year to year. So the ultimate goal is that we're beginning the year with more students who are proficient in literacy and math. And then we also use this data to analyze for growth. And so this establishes a baseline to monitor growth across the school years. And so we are going to be looking at two different types of data that really point towards trends and growth. Some key takeaways I want to share before we get into the data, and we'll circle back to these at the end. We're seeing in terms of trends and proficiency, we have more students beginning the year on grade level in literacy, up to 50% from 46% in the past 3 years. And then we also are seeing small yet steady growth in the percentage of students beginning the year on grade level in math. So 1% increase over the past 3 years. We'll see a visual of those two trends, but those are important district-wide trends that we're paying attention to. And then we're also going to be looking at data points related to student cohort growth. So when I say cohort, I'm talking about the same students that were with us the year prior and how they're performing the next year. So the trend data, we're just looking at the students in that grade level that tested that year. We're not looking at the same exact students because every year we'll have students graduate and every year we'll be welcoming in new students. So again, the trends is just overall what are our levels of proficiency. And then the cohort data, I think, is data that all of us like to see. How are students that are with us growing from one year to the next? And so we did see growth for grades 1 through 11 of literacy. 9 out of 11 student cohorts did increase or maintain proficiency. I believe there are 2 grade levels that maintained proficiency. And then in terms of math, 8 out of 11 student cohorts did increase in proficiency from last year to this year as well. So we're going to dig into that data. And first, we're going to look at literacy. So looking at the district trends, this is what I noted on that previous slide, that we are seeing now an increase of our students that are beginning the year on grade level up to 50% for the fall of 2025, up from 46, which remains stagnant the last 2 years. And then broken down by schools, you'll take a minute to just kind of orient to this graph we have on the left. You have 3 different years of data there to look at. So fall 2023, 2024, and 2025. 2025 is the orange column, the most recent year. And some key takeaways to look, we're talking about our K-5 literacy, is that 6 of 9 schools have increased from last year to this year in terms of their baseline of students beginning the year proficient. You will see there are some more significant jumps at Mitchell, Wilson, Hoover, and Horace Mann. We're going to continue into our secondaries. Again, we're looking for trends across these schools. These are not the same students. Okay, so we have new 6th graders that come in, right? New at each of the grade levels. And so what we did notice is that 4 out of the 6 schools also increased their beginning of the year data. And now we're looking at cohort data. So again, this graph does look different. So I'll let everyone take a second to kind of notice what they see in this graph. So we did pull it apart, looking at kindergarten, 1st and 2nd in this first graph. There's a lot of different ways you can represent this data. It can be kind of difficult when you have 6 different lines on one graph to really see what we're looking at here. But we did see, first you can notice this gray 70 up here. That's our kindergartners. So that's really promising that we have kindergartners coming in with good, strong skill sets in terms of literacy. Now, the thing to note about FastBridge is it's based in skills that are on grade level for that grade level. And so the test is going to increase in difficulty, of course, from K to 1 to 2. So some things that in our analysis we've discussed with some of our principals are some of those leaps from what's expected of a kindergartner coming into the school year versus what's expected of a 1st grader coming into the school year. That can be kind of a big jump in terms of the skills that we're expecting, or what a FastBridge is noting as on grade level or above grade level. But you'll see that our 1st graders went from 43 to 41%, but our 2nd graders did increase by 9 points, which I think is a testament to the work around early literacy that we were focused on last year in our 1st grade. You'll also see that trend kind of continue with these cohorts of students. So our 2nd graders going into 3rd grade increased by 7%, 4th graders by 8%, 5th grade did maintain. And then looking at our secondary cohort, our 5th graders going into 6th grade, again, a 9% increase. Our 8th graders also 7th going into 8th, increasing by 1, and then a 1% decrease with the 6th into 7th graders. And finally, our last 3 cohorts of students for literacy, looking at our 9th, 10th, and 11th grade cohorts, we see increases of 4% for our current 9th and 11th graders, and then 10th grade is staying stagnant. This is reflective of data that we did discuss also earlier this summer. We're looking at beginning of year to end of year. We talked about that dip within 9th grade going into 10th grade. And so those are some areas that we're currently focused on with those teams at our high schools. And then looking at our math data, this is what I noted again early on, trends in math data, slow but steady increase of 1% of students on grade level. Again, not the same students, as some students graduate or move beyond this testing, and we welcome in new students every year, but it's important that we want to keep seeing this increase. And then when we're looking at the school level, you'll see there were increases across 5 of our 9 schools from fall 24 to fall 25. And then where we saw decreases, it was 1 to 3 percentage points. And again, every year there is going to be a level of fluctuation with new students, right? And some of those could be our new kindergarten babies coming in, or it could be students that transfer in as well. So this number, again, our goal is that we're always seeing an increase, of course. The trend line, we want to go up, but we also know that there's going to be different challenges each year. And yeah, new challenges for our teachers to tackle. And that's why we're working really closely on planning and analyzing this data and creating plans to support students. Then we look at trend data for our secondaries. Again, seeing positive increases across secondary with the exception of Daki. And then looking at cohort data. So again, once again, breaking it down, you'll see the same trend. Our kindergartners are coming in with some strong skills, which is very exciting and a testament to our families and our community. Then we're also seeing increases. Our kindergartens going to first grade, a 5% increase up to 58%. Our current second graders, a 7% increase. So those are encouraging data points to see that the students who are with us, we're seeing the increase. We did have a phenomenon across our district with our 4th grade group. The cohort of 3rd graders going into 4th grade. I was just at one of our elementaries this afternoon doing walks, and they noted that as well. So like I said, we're very aware of the data and using that to inform our individual plans for students as well as district-wide supports and analysis.
Ms. Raj, before you
Yes.
continue, Mr. Lee, did you have a question?
Did you want questions at the end or?
I'm almost to the end, so if you want to hold for that, that'd be great. Thank you, Mr. Lee. And then secondary math cohort data, again, same students. We did see an encouraging increase from our 5th graders going into 6th grade. But as we noted in the summertime in that data review, and you'll see it reflected here across 7th and 8th grade, there was a dip in proficiency for that cohort of students. And so I'll talk about some specific action steps. And in general, we're just not seeing the same level of growth in the cohorts for our students within math at the secondary level as we would like to see. So next steps, again, pointing back to our theory of action, I did share with you all in the summer some specific steps that were connected to our theory of action. And so a lot of our work that we've been doing with ASA and our continuous improvement work is to try to stay very focused on what we're doing, to progress monitor the impact of our areas of focus, and then adjust strategically. And so you'll notice a lot of repeated language as we look at what we're focused on and going to continue to focus on, because we are seeing increases again across the majority of the cohorts. We did see an increase in growth. We are seeing trends in proficiency with more students beginning on grade level. So that is telling us that we do in some ways need to stay hyper-focused on the ways we are. And a lot of this work, as you all know, as you do change work, takes time because we are building muscles, and it does get easier over time. And I'm seeing the amount of muscle and effort that our leaders are putting in and working with their staff. Our staff are really able to support our students more strategically as well. So on the district level, we've been supporting and coaching and working with collaborative teams, and then at the school level as well around our guaranteed and viable curriculum planning guides. So understanding what is grade level learning, getting consistent coaching and feedback around that, but also working with each other. So teachers have the expertise, have the knowledge, and them being in the same space and being able to talk with one another about that, and strategically adjusting, bless you, their supports for students. So number 1 and 2 really go hand in hand in that way. We're also making some big strides in terms of just refining our EMLSS system and getting more strategic with the layers of support we're offering to students. So that goes from offering more access to accelerated programming and high quality resources, but also making sure we have personal support plans in both literacy and math. Previously, we had that in literacy, and we are seeing how that is paying off. And being able to really target specific lagging skills that students have and support them in closing those gaps. With that work, we've also spent a lot of time on progress monitoring our data system. So coming to you and speaking with you, our schools, if you joined any of our leaders, they know their data. They understand where students are, and also data is not just a number, but it's a student. So they know exactly where their students sit. They're working very closely with their teachers. Their teachers know what students need. All literacy plans have been completed at this point, and they're moving towards many math plans have been completed already, but those are finishing up this week. So getting into really having a strong start to providing that strategic support for students. And then we're also, again, continuing to align around our goals and being really specific with the student learning objectives and goals that teachers are setting and monitoring their progress towards that. And finally, it's really based in our adult learning framework, our theory of action, that top line, if we implement high quality universal instruction, that is going to solve 90% of the challenges that we're seeing in our schools. We have to ensure the most time we have with students is the first time, right? There isn't enough time to make up for lagging skills afterwards. We have to make sure the instruction we're providing students on the daily, the first time, is our best work. And that's what our teachers have been working endlessly to do, and our leaders are supporting them in that. And so we know that if we can do that, we're going to also continue to see immense growth with our students. And so the next update you'll hear in regards to data, a more formal update, if you will be around our state report cards in November 17th to be exact. And then we'll be coming back mid-year to look at mid-year data and dig into that. So I will pause there for questions.
Great. Questions from the board? Okay. Board Member Kaiser?
Being a fourth grade teacher, I'm kind of fascinated by that drop that kind of happened. Do we know if the math curriculum that we have, does it cover what is specific, like those key learning targets, you know what I mean, well enough for the beginning of year? Because I've noticed with my fourth graders, beginning of the year grades are also, data is struggling, but then mid-year and end of year, it gets so much better because the curriculum doesn't catch them up quite yet to the beginning of fourth grade. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I think what we're seeing in the analysis and the conversations I've had with leaders and teachers is that, so the fourth grade assessment is teaching fourth grade standards, at least beginning of year standards. And so it is a jump from third grade. So that's one thing that our leaders have noted right away. They're like, the skills that they're being asked to do are just more challenging, more complex. But also we've started to have, I don't want to say started, but to be more strategic with conversations between those grade level teachers, because I don't think it sits within just fourth grade. It's what is happening prior and what are those skills where they know they can start the year there, right? They know they need to focus in on fractions or multiplying fractions and division to get into the more complex math work that they're going to have to do in fourth grade. So it's a combination of, I think, more strategic collaboration between grade levels, and I think an increase in the rigor of what's expected in fourth grade.
Good. Other questions? Board Member Lee?
Yeah, I'm just curious of a couple things.
Mhm.
We're talking about our kindergartners. and, where they're coming in at level wise. Do we know what percent of those kindergartners were with us in K4?
I don't, I would have to get that for you.
Because,
That's a good question.
I somehow would think that might play a role in their abilities
That's a great question.
compared to our K5ers who come in fresh, never been to school before.
Mm-hmm.
And, the expectations and how that works, and there's growing pains, and this is the beginning of the year, and you're trying to do things that
Mhm.
you've never done before because you were home with mom and dad or at a daycare or wherever you weren't in K4.
Yep.
So I think that might be interesting. It may not give an actual causation, but it might be interesting to know. It may be
Yeah.
something we can use to help encourage families
Families to
their
attend.
4-year-olds to call me, hey, look, we see this increase in our testing for those who attended our K4 versus those that didn't.
Yep.
It might be interesting to look at that and see if there is a correlation that actually can be determined to be causative. And my same questions from what do 100% of our students take this test? What is the percent? Is it 100%?
Yeah, that is the goal. It usually hovers
But is it 100%?
in majority of our buildings, it is 100. There are some that it would be 96, 97 at the lowest.
Lowest?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just because they're not, I know there's makeup days and it doesn't always have to be on the day, but.
Correct.
they
It's a
come for
window.
long period of time and they're not able to make it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something to keep in mind too, I presume that those students who weren't tested, you have something in place for them, because obviously you don't really know where they are, right? And so if you don't have that test, you don't have that baseline, it's harder to help that student if they need help, whether up or down, right? Whether they're gifted or they need more support to try and get up to grade level standards. For those who don't take this test, what are the plans for those students? How does that look?
Well, there's still, I mean, all of the teachers are doing collaborative meetings or roundtables around students. So it is one data point. If they're new to us, they would have cumulative records from wherever they've been previously. They would have student work and data to analyze from the beginning of the year to assess if there's more supports needed. But again, I think that across our elementaries, I could pull it up right now, but I think it's largely like at 100%, where we tend to have those lower of like 96 to 97 is at the high school level, where it's more difficult because we do this through 11th grade. So it's more difficult sometimes to get students in the building. Yeah.
But we often do outside of the window if we have a student who wasn't there during the window. So we don't necessarily count their scores within the official, we can't get percentiles.
Sure.
But they can be tested at any time. And so I'm often getting emails, can I test him? He's here. Do it, please. Get him in there so we at least have something to go off of.
Mhm.
But then we also strongly encourage, like, get those formative assessments, get some information from class to make the decisions on your next steps.
Okay. That's good. I don't want to see people fall through the cracks in this regard, because I think this is very powerful to be able to help direct the
Yes.
education for each student and where they need to go. And, but, stuff happens, illness or whatever else, are they coming in halfway through the year?
Yeah.
And so I think that when you're lacking that, having that ability to do things ad hoc, so you can at least in the interim, maybe they're not included in these data points, but overall, they're still directing their individual education appropriately.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Other questions from the group? Yes, Board Member Carr.
The data is the data. I am more intrigued by our plan.
Yeah.
And the continuous improvement. So I love that we have a plan. I think that's half the battle.
Mm-hmm.
Is having a plan. I love the shared ownership of that plan. It's very strong. I have a couple of questions just for, clarity, I think, just to wrap my head around it. So the collaborative team cycles
Mm-hmm.
that we've been working on. So the teachers are meeting, they have priority standards, they have success criteria, they talk about the lesson itself, the exit tickets, then they come back and analyze that data. It's a cycle, right?
Correct.
My question is, who is deciding on that priority standard, the success criteria, the exit ticket? Is that provided for the teachers, or are they coming together in the meetings and saying, okay, let's whip up an exit ticket? Like, are we, and I have a feeling about either one. So let's
Yeah.
answer that.
Well, let me provide the clarity and then see where you want to go next. But what we have provided in the GVC planning guides is we brought together teacher teams as well as our instructional coordinators, our school-based coaches, as well as district support to prioritize the standards. So we've said this is priority learning at this grade level, right?
Yep.
Just also to help our staff stay focused once again, because as we talked about, it would take, I think it's 26 years to get through the 12 years that we have students with us, right? So, but then once they're in those collaborative team meetings, most of our schools are focused on learning intentions, which is the goals of the learning, success criteria, how do students know they'll be successful by the end of that day? And then how are they going to check for understanding, which really is like, how do I know every single one of you? I get feedback from you on what you're able to do, right?
Right.
So that's where they're focused, and that's what they're discussing in their collaborative plans. So in those meeting times, so they're saying, okay, this is our priority standard for the week. A lot of our resources at the elementary level are week based. So Scholastic is an example of that. So they'll say this is the priority learning, so they don't have to do the guesswork around that. They're in the core resource and they're talking through, okay, often the core resource provides a learning intention. So they don't necessarily have to come up with that on their own, but they can tweak it if they want to use different language. And then the success criteria, they're really breaking that down as a team for their students. And that's where the I can statements are really the student-friendly language of students that know, like, I'm going to be successful when I can do this one or two things. And then as a team, they're deciding what is the best check for understanding, or do we want to do I would say a little more formalized check for understanding, which would be a common formative assessment. So they determine that in teams. So it's a balance of, we provide kind of the overview of like, this is the priority. And we also want to make sure, and this is important, part of the prioritization of standards is to make sure it's actually doable within that grade level. And sometimes we haven't been able to get to all the core concepts within a grade level because of pacing. And so that's something that our teachers and our leaders are really talking a lot about right now, of just how to stay focused on the priority learning. So that's what I would say. They're doing a lot of that work together in teams.
Yeah. And I think that there are drawbacks to that. I'm looking for continuity among the buildings. The minute that we say, and I can see both sides. If you provide that for teachers, if you give them everything, then it's not their own. They haven't lived it. They haven't written it
Correct.
together. They haven't really come together and said, look at our students, and this is what, let's use this to see what they need. And so I tend to go with that model. But on the other hand, I can't see Wilson and Walker's third grades being the same, like as far as they have the same learning intention. Are they, does it stop there then?
No, so that's just the planning side of it. So when we talk, and these are the conversations we've been having with leaders a lot of them have been leaning into the collaborative teams and making sure those are strong, both from like we're actually collaborating together.
Yeah.
We're actually internalizing what we're teaching. It's not that I just know it up here. I've thought through how I'm going to facilitate this, what students are doing when I'm doing X, right? So they've really internalized their learning for students. But then that's where the adult learning framework comes in. That's where we're saying as a district, this is the type of instruction we want to see across all of our classrooms.
That's what I'm getting at.
And that's where we are also really focused. So my team knows like we're building collaborative teams. So teachers own it and also feel like they have the support in the place to like learn from each other. And we're also providing really important feedback focused on what we say is best instruction. And that's what the adult learning framework is. So it's happening in more formal ways through instructional rounds. As Dr. Robinson noted, we are at Franklin last week as well as Hoover, but it's also happening every day with members of my team, with me, with Dr. Robinson. We just go on walks and we're like, okay, this is what we're seeing. And we're staying very focused. So like I said, our schools are getting really, really good at naming and having clarity on what they're teaching, students having clarity on what they're learning, and then teachers checking to see how students are progressing towards that. Because that is really important. We need feedback from students. Students need to tell us like where do they got it? Where are they ready to move on and do it on their own independently? Or where do we need to provide more supports? So that is the in-person part that you're speaking to, Ms. Carr, of like, I need to see this planning in action. Is it translating into the class?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the conversations our leadership coaches are having, we're having with leaders. And just a big shout out to our teachers are working tirelessly on both the planning and like the executing of the lessons. But like our leaders are really in the work too, alongside them. They know where their teachers are, what they're teaching, when, and how.
So just one more question
Of
that
course.
leads me into that you talked about.
Yeah.
So the individual plans.
Yes,
The
the personal
support
plans.
plans. Can you tell me more about those? What do those look like? And who's writing those? And when are they working
Yes.
on those?
Yep. So the personal support plans is a journey we started last year. And last year we received guidance from the state on like what needed to be included in that, right? So this is part of Act 20. But then we have taken that and made it a more succinct system within our Skyward system. So our student information system. Many of you are parents. You can log into Skyward. You can see now your student's personal support plan in Skyward. And so Corey here has done a beautiful job of designing that for our teaching staff for that to be really easy to input the personal support plan. So previously, we didn't have that as a plan because if you remember last year, we received information and then had to turn it around within like a month or so from the state. And so we had great plans that were laid out, but just in a Google Doc. So now it's a drop-down menu. Okay, I'm working on literacy. This is the skill that I know I need to hone in on with the students, maybe phonics for a lot of our K2 learners. And then this is how I'm progress monitoring it. And this is who is progress monitoring it. So we have different people supporting our learners, from reading specialists to our multilingual specialists, reading course. So we have a lot of different people that can pour into those plans as well. So again, that's like another change in system we've had to adapt to. So we walk through it with leaders in the summer. They did a beautiful job walking their staff through it in August. In September. And then they have been working, they had all of their planning day, if they wanted to use time towards that, just because those were strategically positioned, knowing they would need to do plans for literacy. They could use that time, or our principals have kind of cleared some of those planning hours throughout the weeks to provide opportunity for that. So like I said, we really focus on literacy first to meet state guidelines for the date for that. And now a lot of teachers, I heard, they were done with literacy within a few hours on that day, because a lot of those skills are repeated that students need support with at those early levels. And we're moving on to math.
Alyssa, can you tell us who needs a plan? How does a kid flag for needing a plan?
Yep. So this all of our students in K2 will take the Ames Web, which is the state screener. They also are taking our FastBridge to help measure their growth. Right. So, and we're always continuously reflecting on what are the assessments our kiddos are taking, what do we need in terms of data. And then if they fall below, there's two different markers for K1 versus 2-3, but the 25th percentile on there, then that would flag we need to have a conversation. Sounds like a segue. We need to have a conversation around the student and maybe do an additional diagnostic. And so we do use FastBridge, has tools that we can use a diagnostic, which is really diagnosing, like to go a little bit deeper. How do we support that student? So I don't have the updated numbers quite yet on the percentages at each school, but that's how the 25th percentile. Yep. Yep. So, and then our families will receive a letter this week notifying them if they had a student previously on a plan, if they're going to stay on a plan, or they maybe weren't previously and we're going to add in some additional support. So they will receive communication this week regarding that. And the supports are happening for our kids.
I just guess I want to clarify because having kids in the district still and looking at just from my oldest now to my youngest, how things have changed, but it isn't that many years in between. But like, this is totally separate from like an IEP. Or is it included in an IEP? Or can you speak to that? Just because like as a parent, where like I say, when my oldest was the one with an IEP, it was IEP and that was it. And then there came in the 504 and now there's, this personal support plan and just the differences. Cause I'm sure there are parents that might hear about this and be like, well, is that part of the IEP? Is this different? How does that play together?
So let me be clear. Your personal support plan has nothing to do with being identified as having a disability or needing an individualized education plan. But it is a measure for us when we do see students who maybe need additional support and like bolstering in literacy or math. We're going to not only provide that, but be really strategic with what we provide to that student based on the skills they need. Similarly, we have multilingual students, so students who speak multiple languages. We provide language plans as well for them, focused on their access scores and different literacy standards that they're working on. So it's just another layer of support. And it does not mean just because a student has a personal support plan in literacy or math, it does not indicate anything of they may need an individualized education plan. It's just a measure for us to make sure we're providing your child with everything that we can to support their learning.
No, thank you for that. Cause I know of parents in our district that, are like, I can't get my kid qualified for this or that, but they need the extra help. So I like the sound of this because that caters to that group that they're like, well, they're not bad enough to be labeled with a learning disability or whatever, but that based on scores, they're not quite where they need to be. So that I think is going to be very helpful.
Yep. Again, just being really strategic with those supports and hopefully early so we can close those opportunity gaps and then they don't need it anymore. Right.
Perfect.
And
yes.
then,
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? I had two questions that I just wanted to quick. The numbers that you've actually three, sorry. The numbers that you're generating as far as how much they've grown or how much they've gone down, are we calculating those or is that coming from the software and everything that we're using for the testing and what's going on?
Yep. So that is coming from our database, wise-local. And so that's pulling directly from FastBridge into that database. And then Corey does a lot of data validation to ensure that information is accurate within that system.
Okay. And then along with that evaluation, are we looking at the statistical significance of this as far as like whether or not these changes are real or if they're just due to chance? Because like a 1% change is likely somebody just had a slightly bad day and right. So like, do we know which of these growth measures and which of these lack of growth measures are actually significant?
Yeah. Are you going to?
No, I was just going to say that this is just one piece of data. So when you look at this along with grades and you look at forward, there's a correlation that we're trying to figure out if that exists. And so this is just one piece of data. It's not the only piece that we actually look at. So trying to figure out if there are any signs from this particular data and how can we progress monitor after the data comes out is where we dig in deeper with each individual kid around skills.
Sure. Well, and for each individual kid, I think that's great. I like the personal plans. More I'm thinking of overall, if we're seeing where like that 5% increase is statistically significant, then we can look to that school and maybe break it down a little bit further and look at who's having success with getting their kids year over year. And so then we can look to that teacher as a leader to help during the collaborations, during the other things to help pass on the pieces that they're using. So that's why I was asking.
It's something that we're still trying to figure out, because if you think about it, this is the beginning of the year, so you can't really give a teacher credit for this because they just had the kids a couple of weeks by the time of this test. So I think the correlation that can take place in giving more credit and seeing comparisons will be more of the middle of the year data, where you can kind of look at the more trends. Right now, the beginning of the year is kind of hard to look at trends in that particular manner.
Sure.
Now, I don't want to misspeak, but go ahead.
I was going to say, I will say in my conversations with leaders, they're aware of grade levels or classrooms where they are looking, as we analyze the data in the summer where you saw significant growth. So we're aware of like different spotlights that we can point to. And strengths, I would say, in teaching practices that are consistent. I would, what I would highlight is I don't think a lot of our math changes is statistically significant yet. So that's why I said like slow and steady. It's positive to see the trends. I do think seeing a 4% increase for literacy across a system of our district is leaning more towards significant. That is different than what we've seen in the past. We actually had a decline prior to 2022. So I think that literacy, I would say we could point to maybe some areas or grade levels where we're finding more success, but math is an area that I'm really excited to come back the end of next year and for us to see some of those changes. So I'd agree. The 1 to 3% to me is not significant yet.
Okay. And part of this too is just for the community at large. When they see those and it drops, it's like, well, that's not necessarily significant.
Yeah.
This is,
and across one school too, right? Versus a system.
Right. So just a couple of those pieces. And then the other piece that I wanted to ask, we mentioned that 3rd to 4th grade, and then there was we're seeing a drop. And
yes.
And then we're talking, well, the 4th grade has certain skills and the 3rd grade has certain skills. Like, are the end of the year skills for 3rd grade the beginning of the year skills for 4th grade? Like, is it overlapping that way? Or are we like being like, hey, you should get these skills in the first 2 weeks and good luck? Like,
yeah,
how are they actually setting that up?
Often our resource, that's where I was saying the conversations have increased between what end of year 3rd grade into 4th grade looks like, because you can start the year there, but those are skills that are going to need to be woven through and repeated. So that's work that I'm doing with Keith Ruffalo on our K-5 math supports. And I think that we have, again, a strong plan to kind of tackle and make sure that when we do revisit those, we need to make sure that we're also not staying below grade level on lagging skills. We need to make sure that those are placed strategically and woven strategically to get at grade level learning. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's all the questions that I have. Does anyone else have anything else? No? Well then, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. Go Brew Crew.
So at this time, that is the end of our agenda. So if there is no further business and there is no objection, the meeting will be adjourned. There being no objection, we are adjourned.